What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Bomb. This is our second episode of Flight Deck.
Yep, today in Flight Deck, we'll be talking about another serious topic. So recently, we know the tragedy that occurred in Korea, and today we're just going to be discussing about the events that happened in the Itaewon Entertainment District. And the footage that may come later might be disturbing to some people, so just be
viewer
aware.
discretion is
Yeah.
advised.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. COVID-19 had ravaged small businesses in the Itaewon district. With the devastation of the pandemic, this only built up anticipation for the Halloween congregation that occurred. Itaewon has established itself as one of the capital city's premier party districts over the past 10 years. For decades, associated with Yongsan Garrison, the large U.S. military base to its west, established in 1945, Itaewon has long had a reputation as a domain of American soldiers seeking to unwind. With a large number of bars and brothels in the area that catered exclusively to foreign military personnel and expats, the neighborhood was coded for many Koreans as a dangerous place. Here, security was not just a local matter, but sometimes blew up into national or geopolitical crises. Against this backdrop, the annual Halloween celebration, which began less than a decade ago, has morphed into the biggest in the country without any formal organization or coordinating body, and cementing Itaewon's status as South Korea's place to see and to be seen. Lined with dozens of restaurants and bars, this small area has always been packed. With the packed space of the Itaewon district, which is infamously known, this is eventually what led up to the tragic event on Halloween. Alright, so we just learned about COVID and how it had a massive effect on the entertainment Itaewon district.
Yeah, we've seen like COVID affect, the rest of the world as well. Like last episode when we talked about how China was using COVID to like limit people. But here we see like kind of like the opposite of what's going on, the government controlled COVID obviously really well.
Mm-hmm.
And then now that COVID has, subsided quite a bit and the normal world is coming back, like I think people just started exploding out, right? Like how we saw some footage of it.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely like crazy.
It's like nothing I've seen before. Like I've been stuck in New York City on the train.
That thing was crazy.
Yeah. Like you remember even when we were in New York City, like we were stuck in the train and it's like, oh my God, how am I gonna get out? But like
yeah.
You can get out.
Like you can see the pathway. Yeah, you can just squeeze your way.
Imagine being stuck in that situation.
That's so scary.
Leave.
Like imagine what you're like thinking about as you're like stuck in that crowd way. And then we've seen the CNN video about how the reporter was, in that little walkway. You remember that?
Yeah.
And then he could like basically stretch his arms across, and that guy is pretty short.
Touch either side of the wall.
Yeah, and that's insane when you think about it.
It's like nothing we've seen before, and like it is just unimaginable. And such profound effects too. And it all relates back to this like creation of like the Itaewon district and how it's so small, and like we know that like it was built up in 1945 like with this military base where these soldiers want to have a place to relax and calm down, where like there's like creation of like brothels and bars there, and it kind of created this like centralized location where people come together.
Just kind of evolved, from like obviously from the what its original purpose is, and it kind of evolved into this entertainment district. And like it's kind of like the structure of the district didn't evolve with the population.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like
it kind of stayed the same as population and popularity.
Yeah, exactly.
And as we'll see in like the next section, how it's gonna have like these crazy effects.
Yeah.
All right. So like relating back to this idea of COVID, I think it kind of created this built up tension, like for like wanting to party, and like we saw this like as well with like a lot of like the other protests in America, like. They're like being stuck in our houses. Like we felt like we needed to get out and do something. Especially with like BLM. Like I feel like BLM kind of like the message was kind of taken away as people just wanted to
come out and just like, and then that's when like all the looting and like a lot of the more extreme stuff started happening. Like people just wanted to get outside.
Yeah,
and do
exactly.
things.
And I think that we can kind of see this correlation with the Itaewon district, where like there hasn't been this Halloween parade for 3 years, 2 years since COVID has been a thing, and I feel like this created like this massive population of people just coming to this one like 3 alleyway and like three
Yeah.
road like passage. As an eyewitness recounts, Itaewon is famous for its crowds, and it's not unusual, but this was next level. Shoulder to shoulder, front to back. The evening had begun with optimism. South Korea was marketing Halloween almost free of the COVID-19 restrictions that had dampened recent years' festivities, and Itaewon was ready to party. The crowd was mostly young. Many wore colorful costumes as they converged on the area with friends. Authorities say more than twice as many people left Itaewon Metro Station on Saturday than the year before, with as many as 100,000 estimated to be in the area. 3 narrow streets and alleyways leading to the station were particularly crammed. I felt panic starting to fill the air. Pushing started, and we were pushed backwards, said another eyewitness. In the stampede, police were unable to control the crowds as they fell into the sway of the Halloween parade. People landed on or under others in a crush that left a pile of bodies wedged between buildings, some at the bottom appearing unconscious or even dead. Some reached out to a small group of emergency workers who had arrived on the scene and spent more than an hour struggling to free them. The full scale of the horror in Itaewon shocked the nation. Among the dead, most were younger than 30. Nearly 2/3 were women. I still see those images in front of my eyes when I sleep at night, said Park, a pub owner in the Itaewon district. So, like after seeing those videos from CNN and all those other news sites, like those are like some of the most horrific things I've seen. Like I like when I was watching it, I kept having to pause it, and
It was really disturbing. Yeah.
it's like nothing I've seen before. Like I've said in this entire video, where like you see like these people like helplessly just pushing, like
You
getting
see like
CPR
on the entire
on the
like side of
street.
the roads, and then just like tens and like hundreds of people just like trying to do CPR, and like you can just see all the bodies like lying there. It's like it's giving me chills just like thinking about it right now. Like,
and one thing that really struck me was how this one reporter was saying, like there's this one woman in this one costume, like that was very sparkly, like, and everything.
Yeah,
and
the
like,
sparkling dress.
and there was like a shoe that was hers, and like if you could see the shoe, you would know it's hers. And it shows how like these aren't just people that died; these are like people that had lives, people that had families and friends.
Yeah, like I think a lot of the times we get stuck in that, like in the like just numbers, you know what I mean? Like we get stuck on the numbers, and then
like
we just consider
people died.
yeah,
like 300
300
isn't a big number.
It's just 300 people,
but that's 300 people that
with
like
individual
are
lives. Like the bigger the number it gets, I feel like the more we kind of just gloss over the fact, and then we get like desensitized by it. You know how like we in wars, obviously we say like tens of thousands of people died, but then we just say that like it's just number, but we don't like stop to consider that like
is a person.
Yeah, every person had a family. They had their own story, and that's like crazy. Like you just get chills and goosebumps when you think about
like,
it.
I feel like humans, like we're all kind of self-centered. Like we think about ourselves first, and like we process so many emotions, and we go through so much, and like to think about that and connect it to everyone that's gone.
You kind of get just lost in like your own emotions.
Yeah.
And then it's hard for you to like consider somebody else's emotions when you're feeling so strongly about it. Like you just get consumed, and you forget the fact that like I'm talking to another human being. You know what I mean?
Who also has their own emotions, their own feelings.
Exactly. But it's easy to ignore it too.
Yeah. Like going day to day, we can be like, oh, this happened in Korea, and then just go to class. But
exactly.
I feel like this really like brings to light
that. Oh my god, I'm getting like chills, bro. Like, it's actually crazy.
Cause like it's really a slap in the face with reality that like these things happen.
Like imagine, just like put yourself in like a relative's shoe. Imagine you're like, oh, I'm sending my child out for a Halloween party. Like imagine us in New York, like something like this in New York, and we're just going to a Halloween party.
And then we don't come back.
We don't come back. Like
that's something like that, like I can't even fathom.
Like imagine your friends too. Like you're waiting for them to come back to play like FIFA or something, and they just don't.
Yeah,
That's
this really taps into like my emotions and how, like,
yeah.
this is like this is something that people were excited for. Like
Yeah,
something that
it's
people,
something that you should have been excited for. You know, like COVID and everything, like we talked
with
about.
the end of it.
Yeah, like
people want to get out. People want to have fun, and for this like negative experience to have happened is like quite profound and quite.
Do you think like there could have been like from like our reading and like our research? Do you think like the officials could have had like a better chance of stopping it, or like?
Yeah,
Not
I think
really.
there was a big problem with how there was no like crowd control, and there definitely could have been more. But
Yeah.
we're saying this after the fact. Like obviously, if we make a mistake, we
You wouldn't have
should have
known,
done that. But
definitely.
how do we know beforehand? It's so hard to think into the future in circumstances like these. Like, how are we gonna think that 100,000 people are gonna come out and that like?
I saw like actually like in a comment where like on YouTube in a comment that there was actually like people like fueling the fire, like pushing people
Yeah.
and like just like causing more chaos. Like what do you think about like those people? Like
Yeah, it just strikes me as like what's going through their mind, like how like it's like really like we get so torn up in our own emotions. Like I said before, like we like you're just like feeling the moment and like you just feel
I
rowdy.
feel like we also like fall victim to that sometimes, like that mob mentality, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's like sometimes like even in just like mosh pits and stuff, like
you want to push everyone.
Yeah, you want to start
give 'em,
pushing.
like everything.
Yeah, like but in this situation, I feel like the people that were pushing, like maybe they just didn't understand like the situation or something.
Or like even the gravity of what could happen.
Yeah.
Or the consequences. Like even when I think about it, like let's say I get really upset and like I do like I do something bad. Like I say something mean. Let's say I get mad with you. I do something really mean. I say something really bad, and like you always have to think about the consequences and like.
But that's hard. That's really hard.
It's really
the
hard.
consequences.
Because like when you're in the moment, when you're upset, when you're feeling that mob mentality, you're not thinking about what's gonna happen.
Or
in the
just like
future.
consumed by your own emotions. Like
Yeah.
you're not really thinking about the consequences. Like the consequences are something that you deal with after you've done it.
Yeah, and I feel like this is like a really big like changing point in like my own like thinking where like now like I have to think about everything I do, and not just that but also what could come out of it. Like I feel like this is like a good learning moment, like to understand how we can change our actions and how we can like move forward from this, and how we can implement this new way of thinking that if I do this it might not lead to something good.
Yeah, I feel like the news cycle, you know, considering how like the news cycle is always so fast, and like how news today is always so short, simple, and fast. Like you read it
exciting,
once,
yeah,
and then you just kind of move on from it. Like I feel like that's like not the way to handle some of these like huge, you know, disasters. Like just considering them as statistics, like I feel like that's like a horrible way to do it.
It kind of takes away the significance of each person that has to go through this.
Yeah, and I think the Korean president did like a great job of just like having a week of mourning, and I feel like that's important for the families and of course like the victims themselves.
Yeah, and it just sheds to light the importance of each person that had to go through this. Thank you everyone for watching this episode. We hope you made it this far, and we just want you to know that this is a very serious topic that many people may still be mourning.
Yeah, and I hope, you know, you guys continue to think about the topic, and you guys
continue to think about actions and like its consequences. Like
just like think deeply and, you know, reflect upon this moment in history. And I think it's really important to just not consider these people as just numbers, and to really think about the severity of the event.
Yeah.
Yep.
We hope you see you on the next one.